Are you seeing the application?
Yep, I can see it. Perfect.
Great. So yeah, so I think we've got a lot of that stuff kind of figured out. This is one area. So yeah, what Han just said, right now we're just doing this whole loop, each time every 5 minutes, do the login, do all these things. Ideally, we could just log in once and let it run and just loop on the actual scraping part.
Okay.
I don't know if it makes sense to start there or to start with the selector.
Yeah, so as far as, I guess, so are you talking about basically you want it to just stay running in the same browser at all times type of thing?
Yeah.
Like closing? Okay.
Exactly. We just want to like
problems with staying logged in on the website? Okay. Have you guys used Chrome profiles or anything like that with it yet?
No.
Okay. Just curious. I'm going to try to get it so that the browser never closes, but I'm just kind of curious just for me to know what people are running into as problems. Okay. So what we could do is we could try to build something that's essentially like an always true condition. What that means is we have a step in your automation that basically is going to, we're going to use the filter step to make sure that it always resets back to a previous step. So what filter allows you to say is like, hey, if step 2 says Kyle, then go to step 2. What we can say is scrape something and say, hey, if this exists, because we're guaranteeing that it is, because it's their logo or something, then go to step 2. And now we have an automation that will hit that step and always reset back. That might be one way we go about it. But I'm curious to see.
Running now, just so you know, like,
oh,
do you want to stop this run?
Yeah.
But by the way, I feel like it's been a little bit. Sometimes I try to get it to stop an active run, and I'm not sure the best way to do that. Do you want to just turn in the automation off while we're trying to?
Yeah,
that's cool. Well, let's turn that off. But yeah, given that automation's running now, it's going
to be at the top of this list? And I apologize, as I've never seen someone fill the list like this. I will definitely add a clear all button so that we can remove all.
We're begging on this.
Go ahead and click into that one that's spinning, and then you can click the stop icon on that. It might be a little slow if that's
like click that.
Yeah, sorry, you can just, that entire thing is, and then you can click that stop icon, and then that should close that Chromium browser. If it doesn't, you can just right click and then force quit that when you interrupted with that.
Okay, I think I just
perfect. There we go. Okay. So yeah, if you want, let's click the plus icon after step 1 and then click record. And what this does, I don't know if you guys have gotten into this, this just relaunches that recording window the same way. Perfect.
Yeah.
And what's the infinite loop condition? Like what is that? What does that do?
So what I was talking about, it sounded like you basically want this to continue to scrape, and it's going to repeat that with it. The problem is that you never want the browser to close. We always want the browser to close. So we kind of have a fighting logic right there of how the app works versus what you guys want. Is to us, an automation is just a simple task of start and finish. So we're expecting the browser to, do step 1, do step 2, do step 3, and then close. You want it to do step 1, do step 2, do step 3, and then go back and keep going back and keep going back. And that's
you want to monitor it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's possible to monitor. It's just kind of, originally we weren't going to be this kind of scraping application, and then everybody found it really easy to scrape with our tool, and now we're here, and now we're a monetary application. So there's hacks to do what you want to do. It's just a process to get there.
I guess my concern here though is that, especially like, so I'm a programmer as well, and so I know when you're fighting against the nature of something, there's challenges. So my one concern is if we go this route of always stay open, always stay logged in. If something crashes or whatever, there's no like task monitoring thing to then say, go launch the thing again. And this is something by definition we want to just have running, all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so
6.5 hours.
Yeah, most of the day. So my in some ways, I'm really wondering if we truly want to fight against the nature.
That makes sense. I agree with you on the
and not have to just do the full. What's that?
Sorry, it cut out for a second. I thought you had paused, but that makes sense. I agree with you on kind of the problems that could come of that, especially because we don't have like a notify me if it failed type of thing. So what I would assume the best thing to do is that we set this up in a way that it will basically just run the way we have it run, where the browser is going to close and reopen. So what was the reason we couldn't do that?
Yeah.
We didn't.
Yeah, we're just trying to be a bit more stealthy about it and not have it, log in and create a new session we really need to get an update every like 10 seconds, let's say,
Okay.
from the page, but we don't want it to be constantly logging in.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
I see. So yeah, so I think Chrome profiles are going to be the way to go with this. What we set up, and I don't know if you guys started using it recently or when you guys set up. It's kind of a recent feature. If you click exit recording right here.
Oh shoot! Yeah, I just realized I did that. How do I? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, just click down there, and then click settings on the top left over there under what's new, and then Chrome profile settings, and then create profile. And then just name this whatever you want, like, default main, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then go ahead and click create. So what this is the same as creating like a browser profile in Chrome. So the same way you can have a completely different identity, but in a Chrome session, that's what this profile is. So now when your automation starts, it doesn't need to do the login. We're going to have that session stored. So you're just a new you're the same. I guess it's a new session, but it's the same user. It's not a new login session is kind of what we could get to here. But you also mentioned wanting to scrape like every 10 seconds.
Yeah. And this brings up something else, and that is that on the in the sign-in page, it doesn't have any cookies. When I went in with the cookie grabber Chrome extension, it doesn't have. Does that make a difference? Because this relies on cookies probably to maintain.
I mean, they might just be doing. You'd be surprised how bad some websites handle their security of logins. That it might be in the local storage. I don't know. I mean, we ran into that where it's not cookies. They stored it the same way. The Chrome profile would be able to capture that if they're storing it another way. If you're using cookies, then no, you're kind of out of luck. If they're not doing that. But like OpenPhone, for example, you can set something in local storage and it logs you into that account. And it's just like an ID you have to set and it logs you into any account you want. That's the problem with like a lot of these things. They should use cookies for this, but they didn't. I think Chrome profiles will be the good way here. I just have a couple concerns with like the tool because you're mentioning performance of like every 10 seconds. I'm trying to think about the reporting side of that because there could be like some lag there. So I guess what is this doing? What is the automation doing?
It's just going and grabbing some data that just gets updated randomly, and then we do something with that data on our side. So we take that and process it, and it's a real time thing. So we're trying to be responsive to the real time nature of the instructions it's sending.
Okay. So basically, just monitoring a DOM element for like an XHR coming in and adding more text to it, and obviously not having to log in, log out. So real quick, so when you log in here and say close the Chrome window, if you go back to that site, do you have to log in again, or are you already stayed logged in?
It's a great question. Yeah, we got to do that because
now, if you want to open this Chrome profile, we could see exactly how the automation will behave with this. Okay. Go ahead and click cancel, and then when you hover over this, there's a launch icon. So this launches that Chrome profile that you just created. So what we can do is manually log in one time, then we'll close this, and then let's see if you stay logged in, I guess, is kind of the
solution. So I think what it's going to do is it's going to take me, and I think it's going to kick me. So I'm going to go here, and then it's going to, what is it going to do? No, yes, okay. Then it's going to kick me to MTA, a different website here. And then, oops.
Because even if we don't have to do this step each time, that will be nice.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I set it up to do this in the automation each time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I understand you're worried about flagging the system because Hans logged in 50 times today. So that's the first problem. So as far as like someone resumed a session 50 times, that's not really that much of a red flag as it is like Hans logged in, let alone Hans logged in from 5 different systems type of thing.
Right.
So it's not, I think.
So we ask you how to put this on the web.
Exactly.
So we save that password? The profile, right?
That's just for autofill, I believe. So it's up to you. It won't really help one way or the other, I don't think. Now let's go back to Task Magic and we can just close this window.
So back to Task Manager. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And then it'll say close window there. And then let's just relaunch it really quick and make sure that when you go back to that, click, there's that white text that says close window.
Yeah, I was trying to see if it actually, okay, there.
I did it. Yeah,
cool. So
yeah,
now,
it should look better. I agree. Click that launch and let's just make sure you stay logged in. If you stay logged in here, then your automation, instead of having your login steps, you're just going to say, hey, use this profile, and it'll always resume from this session, thus always being logged in.
What's the URL we're going to go to again? Is it the MTA, or can you try to go back to that same place?
Yeah. What is that? MTAcommandcenter.com. Did I get that? Sorry. My site's not getting. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
so it's
I wonder. And then this definitely isn't something I can just sign up for, I'm assuming, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's paywall.
Yeah, okay. I was just double checking. Trying to think about. Yeah, so my only concerns are like the automation you guys are going for versus like, not that anything our automations have been are really standard, but as in terms of speed, I guess we're not. I'm worried that you guys won't be excited about the speed of the reporting, and I'm worried about kind of the resuming of the sessions here with how frequent you want to check. So just to give you upfront about my worries about it, we're not the fastest platform. We're not a speed platform. We're a get it done type of platform. That's the only difference. Is a lot of people have set up like trade related stuff, and like someone was setting up crypto trading stuff, and I'm like, that 5 seconds matters, and I just need you to be aware of that. That 5 seconds is very critical. So I think that we might be able to do something.
Like, what is the resolution, do you think? Like, is it like a minute, or is it?
I'm trying to think. Well, I'm confused why the login wasn't stored, because that should have been able to be persistent. Is this normal in like Chrome as well? Do you have to log in every single time? Oh, okay.
No, it's weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, when I open up the main screen that has the data on it, I can keep going back to it over and over again.
Okay.
During the day. But when it signs me out, or when I I don't know.
This isn't actually the HJ profile we just created, right? Like,
that's not.
That should be the profile you did. It doesn't name it, but it should be the same. Yeah, we don't do it. The naming was extremely difficult to do for some reason, so we just gave up on that. Not many people even know the name shows up there, so we just kind of. But this is when you create that profile. It's kind of weird how to explain it, but basically this will continue. If you create more profiles, they're just going to continue to be person 1, person 2, person 3.
Yeah.
But when you launch them, we'll be launching obviously based on what you named, things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. So we're going to need to do something kind of fighting the system a little bit, let's call it. Like maybe an automation that maybe you create a new login every hour and the automation can run for an hour, like, right? That type of a
That's
thing.
Fair. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, we might have like a little bit of a fight type of thing going on. It's really just, we need to get creative with something, because it's kind of weird in all of these different areas. So what you could do is you could definitely, let me send you a video really quick of using scrape and filter together the way I'm describing. So this is an automation that this isn't like extremely similar, but it explains the concept, I guess. What this does is this is scrolling down a page and then continuing to click the load more button if it exists. You're going to be doing this to, hey, scrape this. If it exists, we're going to use the filter to go back to a certain step. So I just kind of wanted you to see how you can use something to put you back at another step. Since that's what you're going to need to do here, you're going to want to make sure that you resume from after the login step, or whatever, that process is going to be for you. So this is just that was just a really quick tutorial, just so you kind of, I guess, see filter in action. And then you'd probably want to use like the schedule trigger to start every hour. That way also, if the automation fails for whatever reason, the downtime was a max of an hour.
Yeah.
So basically, like the flow is, every hour run the automation. Inside the automation,
Have a loop.
It
does the scraping every.
Like do this. So basically, if I come back to the steps, gosh, I always get. Should this run into?
I think this loads that.
Okay.
There we go.
Cool. So basically, this is the full thing. We scrape list or whatever. And maybe we should talk about that in a second. But after that, we could say, like, wait for some number of seconds, try to do the scrape. Like, I think I understand basically that, like, stay with this.
Here, I'll show you really quick. So like click, like for example, add a delay step really quick, just clicking plus, and then there will be a delay. You can add that after step. Oh, you've already added delay step. So I mean, you're fine there. Go ahead and add a filter step. And I'll just kind of show you, just to kind of show you what this looks like.
Sure.
Just the plus, and then there will be a filter right there. And then you can see the then skip to, and if not, then else. This is all you're looking for. Is if you click on one of those options, you'll see that this shows you all the steps in your automation. You can end the automation. You can resume from a different step, skip to a different step. Just kind of, this is what I'm saying is this is your reset so that you can continue in the same session for some amount of time. You're going to want to use this so that you can, I guess that's just, this is how I'm going to imagine the easiest way is to maintain the browser staying open.
Yeah. And this is better than the loop, whatever step type.
Yeah. So the thing with what loop is for, loop in a technical point of view, trying to explain it in like a way that hopefully makes sense with that, is it's meant to loop over elements on the page. So imagine you have a list of followers, and for each follower, you want to hit the follow button.
Got it.
That's how that works. Or like, we have all of these lists, like, okay, you guys have all of those tickers, that all those calls going out. Maybe you want to loop over each call and send a Slack message of each call. That's how you might use loop. So that's how that feature kind of plays.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's good to know that.
Yeah. No, that's
we have the terminology exactly.
I'm going to delete that for now. So maybe I think it's worth talking about the scraping a little bit, because it seems like we're just going to have to tinker on, staying active within, going to, like basically like log in once, go do the thing you need to do. After you do that, like click someplace else, click back in, wait a couple of seconds, do it again. Like we can figure that out, I think.
Correct. Yeah. And then one thing I want to point out to you really quick, can you click advanced settings on the left over there? So on the like left menu bar, and then it's towards the bottom there.
Yep.
And then runtime settings. There's a max runtime here. I will say I genuinely don't know when this has been used. Can you click that checkbox? Because I don't even remember what you have to set up with this. This is this is where you might want to enter like 64,000 or whatever an hour is going to be, so that we make sure that this absolutely stops. That way we can resume with the next login.
Yep.
But that's
breaking ground with task magic here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a creativity side to it that makes a lot of things fun and possible.
Yeah,
exactly. Cool. So then, so the selector stuff, this has been a little bit of a challenge, but yesterday I was able to get logged in, record the step. It was my first time using this yesterday, so it's just a learning curve. But I was able to then say, okay, this part of the page, scrape list. I clicked on 1, 2, 3, 4 examples. That was a nice interface, by the way. And then it figured out, how to do that, which was great. And then I realized that it actually needs to be basically more divs, more surrounding area from the thing I selected. And so I don't know what the best way to try to.
It's probably going to be to re-record that step.
Yeah.
Just that's the simplest way. If I had to take a guess, and you're too close, you probably want to remove one or both of those span tags from this selector. Not that I ever want users to do this. I'm just trying to give you an answer that I think would be it. I would tell every single user to re-record the step, but you told me you're a programmer, so I'm telling you to remove the span tags. That's kind of just to give you an answer there.
No, totally. That makes sense, actually. And I think we can, after this call, and thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we can just take off those last, probably like you said, those last couple spans, because I'd rather have more of the data and then on the server side, like slice out stuff than not.
Yeah.
So, okay, I should actually.
Yeah, when you're scraping and you see that green border highlighting things, that's tracing every block on the page. So, hey, I'm on the span now. Now I'm on another span. Now I'm on a div. You can kind of go back and forth as much as you want there. Way easier than having to understand HTML elements, but you've already had the luxury of probably having to go through that. So that's why I'm going to let you know how you could edit this at least.
How you can do it quicker? That's great.
Yeah. Here's how I would do it, but here's how I tell every single other person to do it.
Yeah, exactly. No, okay, I'll do that.
So you don't get a lot of programmers looking for shortcuts with Task Magic?
No, it's really weird. We have such a wide range. We have people who completely put me on my heels, and then we have people who are like, okay, so a URL is what takes us to a website. Right? Like, we have a guy who's a machine learning engineer at Amazon, and then we have that person. It's just, and it's crazy because both people get value from the tool and both people can learn more from it. And it's interesting because I will say, usually the engineer has more trouble because they want to get into all the settings. And we're like, we do it for you. Just let us do it for you. We try to do it all for you.
There's one in there. They want to get in the, it's like, no, just like we made this for you to not have to do. Like, I look at that selector, I'm like, I don't want to go in and.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we try to stop you. There's an extra pop-up to say, just don't do it.
Yeah, it's actually funny. It's like, you sure you really want to do this? Actually, to that point, I don't think we need custom JavaScript anymore, but I did have challenges with that yesterday, and I realized a couple aspects of it. But so I realized that like you need to return something out of that step. That makes sense. Is there any other like tips or tricks as to
let me send you. I have an article on our JavaScript step that shows a couple of like examples, like a API request being done and like a console log. Like it's just that type of a thing. Let me send you this.
How can is there a way if I, again, probably don't need to so much time on this, but if I am trying to do some custom JavaScript stuff, is there a way to just sort of say, hey, like in the automation, pause, let me look at the actual like inspector, let me look at the console. That was not obvious.
There is going to be a I was looking at something else and I saw that there's a pause automation step that you can use in between. So it's a delay, but obviously until the user tells me to resume. And then what you can do is you can just inspect the console in Chromium, and you'll be able. So the custom code that you run is executed from that console. So any console log, you might see some junk from us in there too, but your console log will be in there with all that information. They're just like, sometimes we console, like for example, with like loop steps, we sometimes calculate it based on parent elements. That stuff might get console logs. So just, you might have some other junk in there just because again, we don't tell anybody to go to that screen. It's kind of a, if you got there, it's your fault.
Totally.
Yeah, that article that I just sent you shows a couple different examples of like performing simple math and returning it, doing an API request and returning it. I will say if you're trying to use data from a JavaScript step in another step, you should try to return just like a string for that function. Just, it's really complicated to work with objects that are returned from this JavaScript step. Just return a single value and that'll make life a lot easier.
Okay, that makes sense. And again, I think we actually don't need that, thankfully.
Perfect. Hopefully not. We're trying to eliminate it.
Yeah. So then, okay, we've got, I think, the general pattern of run it hourly, try to stay logged in by just going, go back to step 2 and tab through again or whatever. The selector should be actually pretty straightforward.
Can we randomize that, or does it have to be hourly on the hour?
The scheduling, I mean, where you can tell where we're going as far as like how obvious is this thing running. But there's no programmatic
randomizer.
Yeah.
But it sounded like you guys wanted to scrape this pretty much 24/7. Is that?
No. It's just like 7 hours a day, 6 hours a day.
Okay. Is it the same 6 hours or just like you're just trying to be active?
No. It's the same 6 hours.
I see. Okay.
Like open hours.
Okay. So do you want it to like, it starts at 6 and then it starts at 7:30 and then it starts at, is that kind of what you're talking about? Or is it just like you want to make sure it only runs during those hours?
I think it's more, instead of saying 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., it's like 6:05 a.m., 7:02 a.m., 8:01 a.m., right?
You probably just want to add a delay. I don't know if our delay step allows for randomization or if it's every single step. has its own randomization. I do not remember on the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. If you can insert randomizations into it, then you can.
So
Okay,
delay.
that's going to be a static delay. But
Right.
if you go to the first step of your automation, let's go to that one, and then let's not the first. Let's go to the click step 2, and then advanced settings on this, and then
Enable random delays.
yep, and then but I want to make sure this is going to be like an up to this amount. So like if you enter 10 minutes, like it could delay for 0 seconds. So it's it should be a completely random scale.
That's okay.
Right here, you could add this random delay step. What would be a really good way to randomize your login is flood your login steps with these randomized delay, but don't add these delay steps to the inner parts of your automation. Just add it to the login process, because then your login will always be off by a couple minutes.